Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. I hope everybody is well. And just before we begin, I just wanted to make a note that could be one of the things that we have to have in mind right now is we all have to do a better job of appreciating what we can have when we're in shul, appreciating all the Amen Yeheshmei Rabbas, all the Amens, the ability to see each other across the table in shir. And maybe one of the things the Rebbeinu Shalom wants is a heightened degree of appreciation for all of that. But be that as it may, we're going to engage now in the Schus HaTorah. I'm working with multiple cameras over here. I'm concentrating mostly on the YouTube camera. Those of you on Facebook, I hope you can see me well. But whatever it is, we're doing the best that we can. So let's continue in the Mishnah Berurah. We are holding on Nun Aleph Amid Aleph. We're in the middle of Hilchos Pesach. We're in Siman Tuf Nun Daled. We're finishing up Siman Tuf Nun Daled. We're up to the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Tez Zayin. So the Mechaber had said over here, we spoke about Matzah Gezula, and we said you can't be Yaitza the mitzvah of Achilas Matzah on Pesach with Matzah Gezula, with stolen Matzah. However, the Mechaber did say, Avalim Gazal Chitim Oy Kemach Va'asai Matzah. The Mechaber said if somebody stole wheat or he stole flour and he went ahead and he processed that into matzah, then the Mechaber said Yaitze Ba. Then you are Yaitze, the mitzvah, if you eat that. And the Mechaber explained Shekinah B'shinoi, because you acquired it, you acquired that matzah. That matzah is now considered yours because you made a shinoi. You made a significant change in that matzah. And by making that significant change, you actually acquire it, and now you fulfill the obligation of having matzah that is yours. So now the Mishnah Berurah says a nice cut in Tez Zayin. Yoitze ba. You are yoitze the mitzvah. Umikam makam, nevertheless, lechatchila lo yikach oisai latzeis ba. Certainly, somebody should not stretch out his hand and steal matzah that's not his in order to be yoitze the mitzvah of matzah. You're not going to be able to make a bracha on that matzah, like we're going to explain shortly. And the Mechaber had explained the reason why technically you could be yotzei is because shekinah b'shinoi, because you acquired the wheat and the flour, but you acquired that matzah with shinoi. Because again, you stole wheat, you stole flour, but you ground up the wheat to the flour, or you took the flour, you kneaded it into a dough, and then you baked it, so you acquired it by making that change, and therefore you could technically be yotzei the mitzvah. Ritzonai loymar, the Chavetz Chaim says, what the Mechaber means to say here is, b'shinoi ma'isa. You acquired it by making a significant change to it. Another potential scenario where somebody could technically be yotzei his chiyuv, he could fulfill his obligation of achilas matzah on Pesach with stolen matzah, is if he stole it and now he gave it to somebody else. Oisai acher yotzei ba. That second individual, so let's say Ruvain stole the matzah from Shimon, and now Shimon took the matzah and Shimon gave it to Levi. Levi, technically speaking, can be yotzei the mitzvah with that matzah because Levi acquires it to have his shinei rishus, because Ruvain is the one who stole it, and now when he gave it to Levi, that's also a significant change because he took it out of his rishus and he gave it to somebody else. In order for this to work, you need two ingredients. You need the shinoi, you need the significant change of either shinoi ma'isa or shinoi rishus, and you also need yush bailim. You need that the original owners, in our case Shimon, who originally owned it, he has to have given up on ever getting it back. The shinoi rishus grade the loikani. Only the shinoi rishus would not be sufficient. And actually, in this case, the last person who ends up with the final product, again, Ruvain stole it from Shimon, and then Ruvain went and gave it to Levi. Levi would actually be allowed to make a bracha on this matzah, because he's not getting that matzah through an isser. He didn't do any prohibition. Because before it even got to him, the original owner gave up on it. Now, if let's say Reuven stole it from Shimon, Reuven gave it to Levi. Now Levi gives it back to Reuven. In that case, Reuven would also be able to fulfill his obligation to have a year Shvishina Rishus, because again, now Reuven would acquire it through the combination of year Shvishina Rishus. Or the Indian Marar in Yaitse Begazel B'diavad. How about when it comes to Marar? Can you be Yaitse B'diavad, the mitzvah of Achilas Marar, with stolen Marar? Ayin B'Biur Halacha. For that, he sends you to the Biur Halacha. And the Biur Halacha, he says over here that it would seem that B'diavad you probably could be Yaitse. Definitely, you should eat Marar over again, but you shouldn't make a bracha the second time you eat the Marar. Now, certainly, we wouldn't want this halacha that we just learned to be Negei L'Maaseh to anybody. Nobody should go ahead stealing matzah or stealing Marar, and especially not to be Yaitse mitzvah. I always say, and I heard it from my Rebbe many times, he would always say, why do we find, just making an adjustment here to this camera, because I see it's not working very well. Of course, the technologically challenged person that I am, I have to figure this out. Oh, there we go. And now this goes like this. I think this would be, doesn't work. Okay, fine. So we'll leave it the way it was. Okay, fine. Why is it that the parsha of Eved Ivri in the beginning of Mishpatim is right after Matan Torah? Wouldn't you think, what is an Eved Ivri? An Eved Ivri is somebody who stole, and now he doesn't have the funds to pay back his victim, so he gets sold as an Eved Ivri, and from the proceeds of the sale, that's how his victim gets paid back. Wouldn't you think that there's something of a loftier nature that could be discussed right after Har Sinai than Eved Ivri? And is that what we have to jump right towards petty theft? We go from the Aseres Adibris and Har Sinai to discuss the halachas of a petty thief who has to get sold in order to pay back his victim. But my Rebbe, Berurah Feinstein, Zal Zayin Gesund, always said that it's to teach you have to understand what's involved in thievery. A thief is lacking in basic emunah. Why does a thief stretch out his hand to take something that doesn't belong to him? How does he stretch out his hand to take something illegally, to take something that's against the Dinei Torah? Only because he doesn't believe what the Torah Akdosha tells us, that Mezaynoso Shel Adam Ksuvin Laimer Rosh Hashanah. He doesn't believe that everything that he has and everything he's going to get has been decreed by Rosh Hashanah. He somehow thinks that he could stretch out his hand and take something that the Rabbeinu Shalom never intended for him to have. Certainly, if he's stealing money from somebody else, certainly the Rabbeinu Shalom never intended him to have that money. The Rabbeinu Shalom did not intend for somebody to get something through theft, right? So why are you going ahead and stealing? This person is stealing because he thinks, I could circumvent the will of Bari Olam. Bari Olam doesn't want me to have this money, so I'll go ahead and I'll steal it, and I'll get it anyway. Or if he's stealing from somebody else because he wants to take away from somebody else, so then what he's saying is, really, Bari Olam wants him to have $1,000, but I'll circumvent the will of Bari Olam. I'll take the $1,000 away from him. Obviously, that doesn't work. Let's say somebody is successful, so to speak, in his thievery. So he robs a bank and he gets $1 million. He's gonna, if the Rebbe doesn't want him to have that $1 million, he's gonna lose it. Whatever will happen, he'll spend it on his defense fund. But whatever it is, he's not going to have it ultimately. So there's a lack of basic emunah that's involved in thievery. Now, for somebody to think that he's going to go steal matzah in order to be Yotze mitzvah, the Rebbe wants you to steal, the Rebbe doesn't want you to steal. So the Rebbe doesn't want you to go steal to be Yotze your mitzvah. Okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yud Ches. Ule inyan bracha. As far as if somebody has stolen matzah, does he make a bracha on it? So the Ramah said, "Ayin lekamon reish sim taf reish mem tes." Says the Mishnah Berurah. Return alarmar. What the Ramah wants to say is the sham mevayar over there. It's explained the leinyan bracha b'chol gav b'yein levarach afilu b'makom dekana. You should not make a bracha on stolen goods, even in one of these cases where we said that the stolen goods actually end up belonging to you. So let's say the fellow who went ahead and stole wheat and ground it into flour. And we're saying that he's kind of the flour with Shinoi Maisa and Yish Bailim, right? The owners gave up and he made a significant change to the wheat. So now he's now the matzah is his. Still, you can't make a bracha on that matzah. The Havale Boitseya Berech Nietz Hashem, because this is somebody who's making a bracha. This bracha is angering the Ribbono Shel Olam. He doesn't want you stole. He's not interested in your bracha. Ubein bracha da achilas matzah, ubein berkas hamitzi gufa. This applies to the berkas hamitzvah that you make al achilas matzah, and it also applies to the berkas hanenin of hamitzi that you make on the matzah. You can't make either one of those brachas. Or leinin berkas hamazayin, as far as benching on stolen matzah, ayin le'el b'simin kuf tzadik vav sif aleph b'Mishnah Berurah. We're not going to get into that right now. Okay, so that concludes Siman Taf Nun Daled. Now let's turn to Siman Taf Nun Hey. Din Mayim Shalanu. What is the din of Mayim Shalanu, which literally means water that rested? Ubay Vav Seifim, and over here we have 6 Seifim in this Siman. Now it happens to be that there's a maybe somewhat humorous story that I believe is brought down in the Gemara. Somebody could look at the words Mayim Shalanu and they could translate it as our water, not water that rested, our water, lanu. It belongs to us, Mayim Shalanu. So there is a story brought down that in one particular town, the Rav taught that when they prepare the matzah, they have to knead the dough using Mayim Shalanu. And he didn't translate what Mayim Shalanu means. So when the people were ready to knead the dough for the matzah, they came to the Rav and they asked the Rav for water. So the Rav said, why are you asking me for water? So they said, because in the drasha, you said that we need your water. When you gave the drasha, you said you have to use Mayim Shalanu. So they understood that to mean that they need the Rav's water. The Rav said, our water. So they came to the Rav for water. So it sounds a little bit humorous, but I think there actually is a takeaway from it. And I would think that the takeaway is, you see the Amunas Chachamim that people had when they heard the Rav say Mayim Shalanu, and they understood that to mean that they need the rabbi's water. They didn't walk around and say, well, this rabbi's nuts. We got to use his water. What's wrong with my water? Why do we need his water? They didn't say, oh, the rabbi's trying to make a buck off of us. They said, if the Rav says that we need his water, then we need his water. They went to get his water. Now, of course, that's not what it means. It means water that rested. And we're going to see what that means now. Says the Machaber, Ein Loshin ela b'mayim shalanu. You cannot knead the dough for the matzah. You can only use Mayim Shalanu, Mayim that rested. Bein shehem me boros uma'ayonos. This is it doesn't matter whether the water that you're drawing is water that came from a bar, a well, or a cistern, uma'ayonos, or from spring water. Bein shehem me naharos, or it's a river water. So what does this mean? What's going on here? It says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut and aleph, ein lashon. So the first thing that the Mishnah Berurah says here is when we say that you have to knead the matzah using Mayim Shalanu, says the Mishnah Berurah, bein matzahs mitzvah, bein sha'ar matzahs. It doesn't matter which matzah we're talking about here. This is not a halacha that's specific to the water that you're going to use to be yotze the mitzvah by the Seder. For example, we saw earlier that the din of shmura matzah, this that you need shmira for the matzah, l'shem matzah's mitzvah, that halacha only applies to the matzah shal mitzvah, to the matzah that you're going to eat to be yotze the mitzvah by the Seder. But the rest of Pesach, the other matzah that you're going to eat on Chol Hamoed, on Yom Tov, that doesn't need shmira. So the halacha of shmura, that only applies to the matzah shal mitzvah. Over here, the Mishnah Berurah is telling me this halacha of Mayim Shalanu is not specific to the matzah shal mitzvah. This halacha applies to all the matzah that you're going to eat all Pesach long. It has to be prepared with Mayim Shalanu. Now, just to get a little bit ahead of ourselves, but for those of you who don't know, Mayim Shalanu means, and we're going to see that right away, that the water has to rest in a keli overnight. It has to be drawn from the river or from the stream or from the well. It has to be put into a keli, and it has to stay in that vessel overnight. You cannot draw the water from the well and immediately use it to knead the dough for the matzah. And if you take a look in the Sharei Tshuva, in Ois Cotton Aleph, Dibur Amaschel, not Aleph, it's his kind of his preface to this Siman. So it's the Dibur Amaschel Ein Lashon. The Shari Tshuva says, "Afilu matzah she'eina shel mitzvah." Just like the Mishnah Berurah just said, this halacha applies even to the matzah that you can eat the rest of Pesach, not just the matzah shel mitzvah. And what's the reason for this? Ta'achshash mishum chimutz. The reason we need mayim shalanu is because of a chametz problem. Harashbatz b'mayim chametz. This comes from Harashbatz, and what this is based on, we're going to see, is that there is somehow a fear that water that's drawn from a well, water that's drawn from a river, water that's drawn from an underground source or an above ground source, there is some kind of a heat, and it's not a measurable heat. And I'll read to you a very nice Dirshu footnote that discusses this. This is not a heat that you can measure with a thermometer. I don't know if it's based on some kind of ultraviolet light or what. I'm not sure scientifically what it is. I don't even know if it's something that we have a way of measuring scientifically. I don't think it is. But this is not a heat that we could measure. But somehow there is a heat that is absorbed in that water. And the only way we could take that heat away is by having the water rest in a keli, in a vessel, overnight. If we use water that was drawn straight, we draw it out of a well, or we draw it from a spring, and we use it right away to knead a dough, we're afraid that heat, that intrinsic heat that's in this water, will bring the dough to chimutz faster. And that's why we need mayim shalanu. What did I make a note here? Oh, so if you take a look in the Dirshu, it's in footnote number 1. It's in the back of the Dirshu Mishnah Berurah in the Miluim. In footnote number 1, he brings down there from a rush, Uvatama. The reason for this halacha, because of a rush, so it's coming from a rishon. Shekevon sha'achiv lolish b'mayim shalanu hu mishum chash chimutz. This is because of a chametz problem. Ein lechalik ben matzos mitzvah l'shar matzos. That's why there's no difference. That's why this halacha is not specific to the matzah shel mitzvah, because it's a chametz problem, which is a problem all Yom Tov long. Umar shehevi bal ha'iter. The Bal ha'iter disagrees with this, and the Bal ha'iter says no, it only applies to the matzah shel mitzvah. And Umar shehevi bal ha'iter raya l'dvarav. The Bal ha'iter brings a proof to his opinion that it only applies to the matzah shel mitzvah, because he says she'ein chiyuv mayim shalanu ala matzahs mitzvah. He brings a proof b'masha amru b'gemara, from the Gemara in Psachim on Mem Amud Aleph, that says betzeikos shel nachrim, a dough that was kneaded by a guy, adam memale kreisai mehem, a person could fill up his stomach with them. You could eat them all Yom Tov long. Umashma, and the implication is af shaloi lashai samanachmi b'mayim shalanu. If we're saying that you could use the batzek, you could use the dough that a guy prepared on Yom Tov, well, you can't use the dough that the guy prepared for matzah shel mitzvah, because it's not shmura l'shem mitzvah. We don't say that a guy is capable of doing shmura l'shem mitzvah. So when the Gemara says that you eat the dough of a guy all Yom Tov long, the Bal ha'iter's assumption was, we're talking about a guy made a dough, and he probably prepared it the way a guy would prepare it. He probably didn't use mayim shalanu. He doesn't even know this is halacha of mayim shalanu. Why should he use mayim shalanu? So that's how the Bal ha'iter brings a raya. It seems to him that the rest of Yom Tov you could use matzah that was not prepared with mayim shalanu. But the Beis Yosef slugs up that raya. He says that proof is not a valid proof. Kvar kosav a Beis Yosef le'el. He says, the Beis Yosef says, Shaha'ikr lahalacha kipirish harach. The explanation of that Gemara in Psachim follows a different rishon. It follows the explanation of the Rach. Shemeduber menachri shalosh b'mayim shalanu. We're talking about a non-Jew who did prepare the dough using mayim shalanu, and that's not to be wondered out. You can't say, well, why would a guy use mayim shalanu? Well, why would a guy prepare a dough in a way to make sure that it's not chametz? And certainly, if you're eating a dough that a guy prepared, you have to know that it's not chametz. So what's it talking about? It's talking about a guy that prepared dough, the Yisrael oimed al gabav, with a mashgiach standing over him, Berurah shaloi nisarav be'isa shum chametz, to make sure that there's no chametz, v'loi nischamtza b'lisha, and that it didn't become chametz when the guy needed it. Ela shaloi nishtamra l'shem matzah. The only point of that Gemara is, the Gemara is telling you could eat the dough of a guy all Yom Tov, in contrast to on the first night. By the starim, you can't use the dough of a guy because he's not capable of doing shmira l'shem mitzvah. But the rest of Yom Tov you can, as long as there was a mashgiach who was watching him to make sure it's not chametz. And that mashgiach will also have to make sure that the guy uses mayim shalanu. So here you have, like the Mishnah Berurah is telling me, that this halacha of mayim shalanu is not specific to the matzah shel mitzvah. It applies to the matzahs for all Yom Tov. Eyes cotton bays in the Mishnah Berurah. Ela b'mayim shalanu. You could only prepare the matzah using mayim shalanu. Hainu lina bakli la'achar she'ivasa. This means that the water has to rest in a keli after it's drawn. Vatam, and the reason, Kasav Rashi b'Gemara. Rashi in the Gemara Psachim on Membeis Amud Aleph says, Shehamayonos b'mei Nisan heim chamin, because the springs and the wells during the spring, during Nisan, are warm. Mipnei shehachama hileches ba'osei zman b'shipulei rakia, because the sun is closer to the earth. Somehow the sun is lower down, and umechamemes hama'ayonos, and it heats up all of the water sources. V'yesh b'farshim, there are others that explain, mipnei shabalayla hachama mahaleches lamata me'akarka. Overnight, where is the sun? The sun, so to speak, is underground. It doesn't mean that the sun goes under the ground, but the sun is behind us. The sun is like behind the world. The sun is shining on the other side of the world. And somehow that heats up the earth. And now the water sources become warmed. And therefore, and therefore the Chazal said that we cannot use this warmed water to knead the dough for matzah right after the water is drawn, because there's some kind of inherent heat in this water which is capable of bringing the dough to chimutz. To have a luhu ke'ein mayim chamim, this would be comparable to using hot water, heated water, to do the lisha, to do the kneading. Sha'asar lolish behem. You're not allowed to knead matzah using heated water. Rather, this water that was drawn has to rest in a keli, and it has to lose its heat. The sheer amidasan bekalim, and as far as the time measurement, how long does it have to stay in a keli? Uzman she'ivasan, and the proper time to draw this water min ha'be'er from the well, yisbar lekamei, will be explained shortly. Now, I want to read to you from a Dirshu footnote, because this makes a very important point. Dirshu footnote number 5. It says over here, Va'af im b'negias yad, even if you'll tell me that by touching and feeling the water, murgash shemayim she'ena mayim shalanu, you'll compare two water. You have a vessel full of water that you just drew from the well, and then next to it you have a vessel of mayim shalanu. You have water that you drew from the well yesterday, and it stayed in a keli overnight, and you touch them both, and you'll tell me that the mayim that was not lun, the mayim she'ena mayim shalanu, the water that you just drew now, karim yaiser, is colder mimayim shalanu. So you're touching both waters, and you say, you're telling me I can't use the water that I just drew from the well because it has some kind of heat in it, and instead I have to use the mayim shalanu. I'm telling you that I'm touching the water that I just drew, and I'm touching the mayim shalanu, and I'm telling you that the water that I just drew is colder than the mayim shalanu. Kasav again Reb Tzvi Pesach Frank, she'ein lismar kach klal. You cannot rely on your sense of touch to measure the temperature of the water at all. And this is like the Chasam Seif says, Sheyadu Chazal, the Chazal knew, Sheyitachen, that it is possible, Shal Yidei Chaim HaShemesh, that from this intrinsic heat, this inherent heat that goes into the water because of the sun, Yischamu Hamayim Rak Be'emtzi'isam, there's some kind of heat that's in that water. Literally, the words over here mean it's in the middle of the water. You can't feel it. You can't touch the water and say, it feels cold. Maybe there's a part of the water that's hot from that sun. Maybe it's something you can't even measure. And this heat will go into the flour at the time that you need the dough, and it will cause the dough to rise and become chametz. You can't measure with a thermometer. So don't think that, oh, you need mayim shalonu because of temperature. So I'll take my infrared temperature gun and I'll take a measurement of the heat of the water and I'll see if it's cold or not. No, this is not something that you're going to measure. And when you're baking matzahs in the northern hemisphere, way up north where it's cold, you'll tell me it's Anchorage, Alaska. You'll tell me it's freezing cold, even Pesach time outside. So what am I worrying that the water is hot unless it's mayim shalanu? What do you mean? It's freezing outside. You still need mayim shalanu. Even if you'll tell me that the water that's not mayim shalanu is even colder. So you can't say this is a chazal. The chazal said that there is this concept of mayim shalanu, and if it's not mayim shalanu, there's some kind of an immeasurable heat over here that you cannot make the matzah with. You can't use it for matzah. It has to be mayim shalanu. The only way you could lose this immeasurable heat is by using mayim shalanu. I'll read to you from another footnote. There's also over here in footnote number 8. You'll ask me, oh, I want to need dough for the matzah, and I forgot to prepare mayim shalanu yesterday. So you know what I want to do now? I want to take water, and I want to put it in the refrigerator, or I want to put it in the freezer. It says over here, no, that doesn't work. You're not allowed to use this water for the matzahs. You can't put in ice cubes. You can't put mayim that wasn't lawn in the refrigerator. We do not understand the nature of this mayim shalanu. We don't understand what this means, that you can't use this water because it's not mayim shalanu. We don't understand what this heat is. Now I'm reading all of these footnotes because I just want to impress upon you that when we say that you need mayim shalanu because there's a heat in the regular water that you cannot use to knead the matzah, don't lose yourself and think, oh, thermometers. This is not something that we understand. It's not something that we're proficient in. It's not something that we can measure. Chazal told us when you're kneading dough for matzah, you need mayim shalanu. If you don't use mayim shalanu, there is a heat that's going to be problematic. Okay, now, the Mechaber said over here that it doesn't matter what your water source is. It doesn't matter if it's from a bar, from a well, or if it's from a mayon, which is a spring, or it comes from a river. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it has to be mayim shalanu to use it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut in Gimel. Bein shein mei naharos, whether it's river water. What's the difference between river water and spring water? So it says over here, Av she'enon nimshachin mimayonos, even if you'll tell me that the river does not come from an underground water source, and maybe the problem that we're discussing, where somehow the sun heats up this water, maybe that's only true by underground water sources, but a river that runs above ground, maybe we don't have this inherent heat that we have to worry about. Nevertheless, the Mechaber says, Yesh lahachmer gam bazel etzanana. Even by river water, we have to rule stringently, and it has to be mayim shalanu, lefi shehika aleim chaim hashemesh bayom, because the sun strikes the river water during the day, v'nischamu ma'at, and the sun is still going to heat up that water, so it has to be mayim shalanu. Okay, now let's go further in the Mechaber. So the Mechaber said you need mayim shalanu. Now on the bottom line in the Mechaber, v'shaya v'noisam, we have to draw the water while it's still day. So the Mechaber tells you When do you draw the water in order for it to be Mayim Shalanu? You draw the water while it is still day. Now, the Ramah puts in over here, the Ramah interjects in the parentheses and says, Samach lebein hashmashos. When's the proper time to draw it? While it's still day, close to the time of bein hashmashos. And he says this divrei atzmai v'agaz maimini perakei. Now, what does this mean, Samach lebein hashmashos? The period of bein hashmashos, what we would call twilight, is the period of time between Shkia and Tzeis HaKeichavim. Shkia is the beginning of nightfall. Tzeis HaKeichavim, the time that the stars come out. That's when it's Laila Lagamri. That's when it's really night. Between that is this twilight period, which we're not sure, is it day or is it night? So the Mechaber said, you have to draw the water and you have to put it into a keli, and you're going to let it stay in the keli overnight, so it should be Mayim Shalanu, and you can use it tomorrow to knead your matzah. The Mechaber said, when should you draw the water? While it is still day on the previous day. Now, it's apparent from the words of the Mechaber that according to the Mechaber, you could draw that water whenever you want during the day. So let's say you want to bake matzah on Monday. So on Monday, you're going to need water to knead your dough. Has to be Mayim Shalanu. When are you going to draw the water? According to the Mechaber, you draw it on Sunday. You want to draw it 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. You want to draw it 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. As long as it's still during the day on Sunday, you could draw the water, put it in a keli, let it stay in a keli overnight Sunday night, and you'll use it Monday to knead your dough. That's the opinion of the Mechaber. That's not the opinion of the Ramah. The Ramah says you have to draw it Samach lebein hashmashos. What does that mean? So you're going to wait Sunday until Shkia, and then after Shkia, during Ben Hashmashos, that's when you're going to draw the water, and then leave it in the keli overnight. But you cannot draw it earlier. Don't draw it Sunday afternoon. Don't draw it Sunday morning. Don't draw it Sunday afternoon. It's got to be Sunday evening during the twilight, and we'll see in the Mishnah Berurah why that is so. I know by me, when I bake matzahs for yeshiva, in the matzah bakery that we use, we draw the Mayim Shalanu 10 minutes after Shkia. So the Mishnah Berurah says, well, let's just continue the Mechaber a little bit. We turn the page here. The Mechaber said, Mi ba'od yom, the Ramah said, Samach lebein hashmashos, oy bein hashmashos. The Mechaber said, or if you want, you could draw the water during bein hashmashos. But again, according to the Mechaber, you could draw it Sunday morning, Sunday night, Sunday evening. You could draw it bein hashmashos. According to the Ramah, you got to draw it during Samach lebein hashmashos. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Ois Cotton Dalet, Samach lebein hashmashos. The lechatchila, the Chavetz Chaim says, lechatchila, roi v'nachain, it is proper l'shav on bein hashmashos mamish. The Chavetz Chaim says, really, we want you to draw the water during the twilight period, according to the Ramah. Why? And it's very interesting. Kedei sheyitztanenu hamayim b'mechuber yud bei shoyis bayoim shehamayonos tzainin bayoim. According to the Ramah, it's apparent that this heat effect that comes from the sun, when does it take place? When do we say that the water in the springs and the water in the rivers and the water in the wells, when do they get heated up by the sun? Not during the day. They get heated up overnight. That's when they get heated up. And therefore, what the Ramah wants is, you want to knead dough for matzah on Monday? So then what I want is, I want that water to stay in the mayon, to stay in the well, or to stay in the spring for the whole day on Sunday, so that the water got heated up Motzei Shabbos. Now it stayed in the underground water source or in the river all day Sunday, and the temperature came down during the day on Sunday. Now you drew the water out of the water source Sunday evening ben hashmashos, and you put it into a keli, and now it's going to be Mayim Shalanu in the keli overnight Sunday night, and it's going to cool off for another 12 hours overnight. That's lechatchila what the Ramah wants. So it's going to stay Yud Bei Shoyis B'Yoyim Shamayonos Tzayin B'Yoyim. It's going to stay in the spring during the 12-hour daytime period in the spring, because the springs are cold during the day. The Yud Bei Shoyis Ba'aver B'Layla. and then it's going to rest for another 12 hours in the keli overnight. So that's lechatchila, what the Rama wants. But when the Rama says that you should draw the water samach ben hashmashos, it's because we don't know exactly when ben hashmashos is. So rashay lishay samach ben hashmashos. So you could draw the water close to ben hashmashos. The Chavetz Chaim says you definitely should not be lenient and draw the water earlier during the day. So in our case, where we want to knead the dough on Monday, don't draw the water Sunday afternoon. Make sure you do it. Leave the water in the water source until later in the day. Certainly, you should not push off the drawing of the water until late at night, because then it's not going to be mayim shalanu overnight in a keli. Now you left it too long in the water source, and you're leaving it there at night. It's going to start to heat up. In a b'diavad situation, if you drew the water for the mayim shalanu earlier during the day, b'diavad you don't have to be machmer. As long as it stayed overnight and it was long overnight, you could use it to knead the dough for the matzah. Let's say you didn't draw the mayim shalanu during Ben Hashmashos, you forgot. And now it's already later at night. It's already after Tzeis HaKechavim. As long as it's still before Chatzos, it's still before midnight, then you could still draw the water and use it the next day. You could draw the water now, 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, and you could still use it tomorrow. But you have to make sure that 12 hours have passed from the time that you drew the water until the time that you used the water. Now, what's the significance of Chatzos? So the Smak says that the significance of Chatzos is that the Iker Hatzinun, the main time period when the water cools off, is Mechatzos ad Halois HaShachar. When you leave the mayim in a keli in order to cool off, the main cooling off time period is between halachic midnight and Halois HaShachar. That's what the Smak says, and that seems to be the significance of Chatzos. Thank you so much for joining me for the share. We're going to stop over here. We'll continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Everybody, we should keep on learning Torah. We should make sure to have the Schus HaTorah. Everybody should gain a healthy appreciation for what it means to be able to go to shul, to be able to say Kedusha, to be able to answer to a Kaddish, to be able to listen to Kriyas HaTorah. Everybody should stay healthy. Everybody should be well. Everyone should have tremendous Yata D'Shmaya. The Rebbeinu Shalom should bring Yeshuas and Refuas quickly. Chuas Hashem. Keherafayim. Be well.